我过来办理退车，我发现一个问题。
I came here to return my car and noticed something strange. It's not just me returning a car. There are so many cars parked here, filling up the lot. This man is a ride-hailing driver. He came to a parking lot to return his car. Most of the cars around him have already been returned, and they're all from ride-hailing services. Recently, drivers across China have been returning their cars in large numbers. Ride-hailing services have become very common in China, but many drivers are struggling and have no choice but to leave this industry.
家人们
Guys, I can't do this ride-hailing job anymore. I'm quitting for good. I've worked hard all night and only made 90 yuan. After recharging the battery, I'm left with just 60 yuan. I didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't buy anything. If I had, I wouldn't even have 60 yuan left. Making 60 yuan for a whole night's work while staying up late and damaging my health is just not worth it. I'm definitely not driving tomorrow. But even quitting comes with problems. Some drivers have to pay heavy fines when returning their cars, losing tens of thousands of yuan.
还有王法吗？还有法律吗？
Is there any justice left? Any laws at all? This ride-hailing driver shared that his friend only rented a car, yet when he tried to return it, the final inspection report said he had to pay 120,000 yuan. But when he checked, the original price of the car was only 119,000 yuan. How could repairs cost more than the car itself? His 8,000 yuan deposit was gone, and now he owed over 100,000 yuan. He was left with nothing. Another driver, Chen, faced a similar problem. He rented a FAW electric car from a company in Hangzhou last September to drive for a ride-hailing service. The contract stated that if there were no violations or damages when the lease ended, his 6,000 yuan deposit would be refunded within 30 working days. But when his lease ended and he returned the car, more than 2 months passed, and he still hadn't received his deposit. The company claimed they had deducted everything due to chassis wear and scratches on the interior. However, repairing these issues wouldn't cost much. Now they're refusing to return the deposit, and he can't accept that. Another driver said he felt deceived, claiming that hidden traps were buried in the contracts provided by ride-hailing platforms. As a Gen Z, I was completely fooled by this ride-hailing work model. Let me share my experience. When I first started, I naively believed that holding the steering wheel meant holding on to hope for a better life. Greedy companies lured me in with promises of high pay and flexible hours, but it was all a lie. I paid a 1,000 yuan deposit, only to find hidden traps in the contract. They talked about win-win cooperation, but I had to cover my own charging costs, split fines, and deal with commission rates so high that I couldn't even earn back my charging fees. They kept my documents and used a rating system to force me to work at least 18 hours a day. The car was rented, the debt kept piling up, and so-called freedom turned out to be a prison on wheels. Ride-hailing services in China grew alongside the rise of mobile internet and apps. Companies like Didi Chuxing were founded in 2012. Before July 2016, private cars were widely used for ride-hailing in many parts of China. After that, these services became legally recognized, leading to rapid growth. By August 2018, there were over 80 ride-hailing platforms operating in China, including Didi, Ucar, Shouqi Limousine and Chauffeur, Cao Cao, Dida, Yongche, and Meituan. After the pandemic, China's economy declined, leading to mass layoffs across various industries. Many unemployed people turned to ride-hailing, causing the industry to become overcrowded. According to a Voice of America report, a 36-year-old ride-hailing driver from Jiangxi used to work in the diesel trade in Shanghai. But after 2012, as the internet developed, his business became harder to sustain. Then came 3 years of the pandemic, and it was impossible to keep going without losing money. He shut down his business and returned to Jiangxi. However, with few job opportunities and low wages in his hometown, finding work at his age was difficult. So he started driving for a ride-hailing service. Another driver in his 50s used to work for a property management company, but after a dispute between two bosses, the company shut down, leaving him unemployed. In the end, he also turned to ride-hailing. As the market became saturated, the industry started to decline. In 2023, cities like Sanya and Changsha stopped issuing new ride-hailing transport permits. Several cities even issued warnings that the industry had reached full capacity. With the economy still struggling and no clear path forward, many drivers gave up. Some even vowed never to return to ride-hailing again. But why is this happening? Analysts say the reason is simple. People can't make a living anymore. Motorcycle taxis charge 2 yuan per kilometer. Yet ride-hailing fares keep dropping, with some drivers earning just a few cents per kilometer. The industry is chaotic, and no one is stepping in to regulate it. Even with rock-bottom fares, more and more unemployed people are rushing in, willing to take any order they can. Data from various cities show that it's not just major cities facing cutthroat competition. Even smaller third and fifth tier cities are struggling. In many of these places, daily earnings are barely over 100 yuan, and drivers are getting fewer than 10 orders per day. Many have realized that even if fares were raised, the flood of new drivers would only make things worse. A ride-hailing driver in Hangzhou posted a video complaining about the chaos in the industry. To the leaders at the Transportation Bureau, the ride-hailing market is a complete mess. High commission rates, low fares, some cities are charging less than 1 yuan per kilometer. How are drivers supposed to survive? Orders are being resold multiple times, and drivers have no choice but to take whatever is left. Low-priced commission-free cars are disrupting the market, and drivers are forced to cover discounts out of their own pockets. There are scams everywhere. The whole industry is in chaos. And these third-party platforms, even dogs would shake their heads at this mess. In a big city like Hangzhou, what's the standard fare per kilometer? Is it 2 yuan? 1.5? 1? Is there even a standard at all? It's not just ride-hailing drivers. Taxi drivers are also quitting in large numbers. The economy is struggling, nothing is working, and competition is getting fiercer while earnings shrink. People can't make a living anymore. In front of me, all these white cars, they're all T3 ride-hailing vehicles. So many drivers can't get orders. They can't make money. Look at these two rows, all T3 cars. Over there too, all T3 cars. They're all getting ready to return their cars. Another video shows taxi drivers in Jilin lining up to return their cars.
Hongqi taxis, all of them are being returned. Everyone is quitting. No one is stepping in to help.
A man also confirms that taxi businesses are failing, and many drivers are giving up. The biggest wave of taxi drivers quitting has arrived. Taxis are parked everywhere, packed together. I'm at a charging station right now, and there are barely any cars here. There are very few taxis and even fewer ride-hailing cars. The taxi business has plummeted, and ride-hailing is just as bad. Many drivers work all day, making only 200 or 300 yuan, sometimes 400. But after costs, they're barely earning anything. It's exhausting. Drivers in the ride-hailing industry work extremely long hours. Online, experienced drivers share their routine. Log in at 7 a.m. sharp, take only a 15-minute lunch break, eat dinner in the car if possible, and target high-paying rides from 9 to 11 p.m. At 1 a.m., recharge the car near home. Following this schedule means working about 18 hours a day. A ride-hailing driver from Hebei told the Voice of America that local drivers have a chat group. At the end of last year, 2 drivers in the group died from overwork. He's 35 and says he can still endure it, for now. A younger driver from Jiangxi follows a slightly less extreme schedule. He starts at 8 a.m., takes a 2-hour break at midday, then works until 11 p.m. or midnight, still around 13 to 14 hours a day. Even with such grueling hours, many drivers continue pushing through, despite being exploited by platforms and facing endless competition. There is no clear standards, few orders, and constant fines. It's becoming nearly impossible to survive in this industry. I paid 6,000 yuan just to get a spot to work, and if I don't hit my target, they fine me 2,000. If you're thinking of coming to Shanghai to drive for a ride-hailing service, don't. Look at the city's heat map right now. It's rush hour and there are 20 cars, but only 2 ride requests. In Guangzhou, ride-hailing drivers are struggling even more. They can't afford their car rentals, can't get their deposits back, and face huge penalty fees. Online taxi drivers in Guangzhou can no longer make a living. Not only can they not pay the rent and get the deposit back, but they also face huge penalties for breach of contract. After having 2 kids, I brought my family of 4 to Guangzhou, hoping for a better life. I thought I could make over 10,000 yuan a month driving a ride-hailing car and ease our financial burden. I came here full of hope, but reality hit me hard. In just 2 months, I couldn't even afford my car rental, let alone get my deposit back. Now I'm facing massive penalty fees and repair costs. I can't keep the car, and I can't afford to return it either. I don't even have enough for rent. In another video, a driver was fined 1,000 yuan by the platform. After failing to negotiate, he broke down. The platform then suspended his account. Furious, he shouted, "Go ahead, ban my account. Do it now," before smashing his car in anger. Another driver, familiar with the industry, predicted by 2025, ride-hailing will be completely finished.
I start at 6 a.m. and finish at 11 p.m. My daily earnings, 300 yuan. But my costs? Car rental 150, charging 30. This is what they call making over 10,000 yuan a month. New drivers think working longer hours will help, but the platform's algorithm has already trapped them. Order rates, service scores, unfair deductions, everything forces you to work like a slave. By 2025, you either quit or die. Once you sign a contract, you're stuck with car loans hanging over your head. Can you afford to stop? They say it's an easy job, but can you survive a game where you trade your life for money?
On top of platform exploitation and a collapsing economy, some ride-hailing drivers also face police harassment. A video from March 4th shows a driver urging his passenger to hurry up and get out of the car because the police were coming to issue a fine. The moment the passenger steps out, an officer runs toward the car. The driver immediately speeds off. "Hey, stop!" the officer shouts, but the driver doesn't stop. He swerves, weaves through traffic, and dodges cars, seemingly ignoring all risks. At that moment, escaping the police is more important to him than his own safety. After overtaking several vehicles, he finally speeds onto a quieter road. This shows just how terrifying the Chinese police can be. Drivers would rather risk their lives than get caught. As people struggle to survive, ordinary citizens are carrying heavy burdens just to make a living. Meanwhile, the police, who live off taxpayers' money, continue to exploit them. Where is the way out? Ride-hailing once made travel more convenient and created job opportunities for many drivers. But now, the industry is in deep trouble. Platforms should ask themselves if they have been too focused on market dominance, while neglecting drivers' rights. Have unfair pricing and poor order distribution pushed drivers to the brink? Regulators must also step up and ensure proper oversight to create a fairer and healthier market. At its core, the ride-hailing crisis is a result of oversupply. Back in June 2021, just 1 month before Didi was removed from app stores, there were 236 licensed ride-hailing platforms in China. By April 30th, 2023, that number had grown to 309. In 2024, many ride-hailing platforms across China lost their licenses. For instance, the Changchun Transportation Bureau revoked the operating permits of at least 70 ride-hailing platforms that year. On November 18, 2024, Xiong'an New Area in Hebei officially revoked the business licenses of 8 ride-hailing platforms. Then, at the start of 2025, the industry faced its first major shakeup. On January 6, the Transportation Bureau of Zhoukou, Henan, announced that it had revoked the licenses of 5 platforms. The transport permits for vehicles under these companies were also cancelled. This marked the beginning of a major restructuring of the industry. A part-time ride-hailing driver in Beijing for nearly 8 years told Forum Media, "Jobs are hard to find now. If you're not making enough money, you compete. The more competition, the fewer orders there are. Cars are everywhere." He believes the bigger question is, why are so many people turning to ride-hailing? That's the real issue. There are just too many unemployed people. When people are desperate, they look for jobs with low entry barriers to survive. The real problem is that too many people can't find work. That's the real crisis. When you have nowhere else to go, driving for a ride-hailing service becomes the backup plan. This industry doesn't require a degree. It's the last resort. That's why it's so chaotic. It's not just drivers who are struggling. Rental company owners are also in trouble. Reports say one rental company owner broke down in tears, saying he had taken out loans to buy more than 4,000 ride-hailing cars. Now, he's paying thousands of yuan in parking fees every day, but he can't rent out a single car. He doesn't know how much longer he can hold on. To turn things around, many rental companies have started aggressively promoting their services online, posting videos and live streaming car rental deals with all sorts of tempting discounts. But drivers aren't buying it. They have made up their minds to leave the ride-hailing industry for good. After years of driving, they've come to realize one thing. Pride won't put food on the table. Instead of struggling endlessly in ride-hailing, they'd rather take other jobs that may seem less respectable. At least they won't starve. In the end, ride-hailing drivers in China are like modern-day ascetics. The platforms take their cut, fines strip them further, and in a sluggish economy, getting orders is like searching for water in a desert. The competition is brutal, like a real-life survival game. And on top of that, they have to dodge the police's hidden taxes. China's economy is only getting worse. Some of these drivers will switch to food delivery, weaving through the streets in rain or shine, perfecting their agility like martial artists. Others might turn to their hometowns to farm. But can farming even support a family these days? And some might just give up entirely, joining the ranks of those who have stopped trying, too exhausted to even pretend to keep going. But if they lose even these last options, where do they go from here?